This is gaming in. We are gaming in progress.
What's going on, guys? This is Done with Gaming in Progress, and today we're going to be taking a look at a game called Along the Edge. This was a game that was sent to us through Keymailer, so we're going to get into this here and take a look at it. I believe this is a super storied game, so not really focusing on gameplay, more story. So let's see here. Along the Edge is an interactive graphic novel. Okay, so it's interactive. Yeah, it's basically what I said. During your adventure, you'll be asked to make choices that'll define how your story progresses. Some of these choices will have direct consequences, forking the story in one direction instead of another. However, each of your decisions, even the most anecdotic, will have an impact on the personality of the main character, Daphne. Okay. Let's see. Progress is automatically saved. Button on the bottom left brings you back to the last checkpoint. This allows you to read the latest sentences again, but not change a choice you've already performed. This button gives you access to the menu. There you'll find a display option, an option that brings you back to the main menu, option that allows you to mute and unmute sound. Let's see. When your decisions influence Daphne's personality, one or two symbols light up on the top left of the screen. The sun, the globe, the moon, and the star. And along the edge, your decisions are neither good nor bad. The branching of the story opens different narrative hypotheses, shaping your adventure according to your choices. Choose wisely. Okay, so we're gonna hop in here and see where this takes us. Dr. Durant. So, is it settled then? Okay. Daphne. Yes, I need this fresh start. This enhance. It's exactly what I needed to finally turn the page. Dr. Durant. I know you've convinced yourself of this, but are you sure of what you really wish to achieve by relocating? After all, you recently went through a major trauma, and there's still a lot of ground to cover. Between you and I, you know what I think of your decision, but I can't prevent you from leaving. Did you already find a job there? Daphne. Yes. I'm substitute teaching for a math teacher at the village's middle school. Pregnancy, 6 months. It should give me enough time to get my bearings. Guess we're gonna be a substitute teacher, I guess. Don't you mind? Okay, Dr. Durant, don't you mind giving up your PhD? Your research career was quite promising. Winky face. Let's see. I do. Of course I do. But if it's a price to pay to get myself out of this situation, then I have to give it a shot. I see. One last thing. I know your relationship with Frank is quite tense. It is. We broke up recently, you know. And I used to count on his support. After so many years together, I need time. I guess you're fully aware that you're about to break your ties with him. Are you sure you won't regret it later? Did you at least inform him of your plans? Yes, I did. It wasn't easy, but he had the right to know. It must have been hard for you to tell him, but you did the right thing. Listen, Daphne, you have my number. Please don't be afraid to call if you need anything. I'm counting on you. Okay, I will. Then all I can do is wish you the best. When are you leaving? Tomorrow. Chapter 1. August. I'm leaving tomorrow. I've inherited this family house, my grandmother's. I haven't known her now, and I never will. My mother has burned the bridges with this side of the family, the only side by the way, since I've never known who my father was. I remember the birthday cards though. My mother has hidden them between two piles of laundry in the linen closet. If the link had been broken, it wasn't my grandmother's fault. And here I stand, 10 years later, inheriting this big house 300 miles away, having myself cut all contact with my mother. That's what they call karma, isn't it? The other PhD students asked me to meet them at the bar. I could also see Frank to say goodbye. And of course, I can just go home. What should I do? Let's go say goodbye to Frank. I took the bus, then another. Then I walked, and my steps brought me back to the old apartment we used to share with Frank. After a couple of seconds of hesitation, I rang the intercom. Nobody. I don't know if I should feel relieved or disappointed. I try again, to no avail. I'll just go home and finish packing then. It's too late to go to the bar. That's it. Everything I own is packed in a couple of boxes. I'd like to be sad to leave, but I really don't mind. My last night here. I don't know what I'm hoping to find there. A fresh start? I'm trying to convince myself of that. Maybe Dr. Durant is right. Maybe all of this is nothing but evading the issue. Did my mother feel the same when she left my grandmother's village 30 years ago? Am I walking in her footsteps after all? The difference is, she had me. I'm leaving alone. I'm asking myself too many questions. I've taken my decision. I can't afford to go back. I can't undo what I've done. I'll try to get some sleep. 300 miles. I got up way too early. The trip is going to be long. Little by little, civilization slowly gives way to empty spaces. The highway is replaced by an interlacing of small roads, and the clear directions given on major routes turn into a tracking game that's getting increasingly trickier as I get closer to my destination. The road goes through the village, which I cross quickly. Although I thought I was getting away from the agitation of the city, all this peace and serenity seems to hide something nefarious. Almost ominous. After a couple of miles, I turn into a dirt track, overrun with weeds. I go through the gates, marking the limits of the family domain. Then, on the right, I see a small stone house. That must be the outbuilding where the couple of wardens live. It was specified in the act of succession the notary made me sign. I decided to leave the car there. I don't feel like driving all the way back in reverse if the track turns out to be a dead end. Walking a bit further, I see a man coming towards me. He's carrying a rifle and a dead rabbit by the ears. Mr. Bonteen, hello, miss. You're on private property. Did you take a wrong turn? I'm sorry, I must be lost. I'll turn around. Wait, are you Miss Steeltub Eye any chance? I am indeed. How did you guess? You're the spitting image of your grandmother. Well, when she was young, I mean. I'm Geralt 14, the warden. Nobody told me you were coming. Is the house open? No. Well, yes. It's been a couple of months now since Miss Teal'ta passed away. So with my wife, Gilbert, we've made sure everything was weatherproofed. But the door isn't locked. Really? Well, the only path goes by our house, and there's not a lot of visitors anyway. The villagers usually avoid coming up here, you know. Why are they avoiding the house? People get worked up for nothing around here. An old lady living alone in a big house and who doesn't get out much. That's enough to make them talk. Thank you, sir. I'll be in the house if you're looking for me. I'll send my wife, Gilberte. She'll help you open the shutters. Keep going along the path. It's not very far and you can't get lost. All right. Goodbye, Mr. Bortine. Have a nice day. About 500 feet further, the path in the woods opens on a kind of meadow where the house was built. Although several generations of Teal'tas lived here, I discovered this legacy for the first time. The building is impressive, with this tower in the middle of the facade, the last remain of an older version of the castle, and certainly at the origin of my family name. As promised, the door isn't locked and opens on an entrance hall plunged in darkness. As I cross the threshold, I'm seized by the coolness of the old stones, breaking with the searing heat of the midday sun shining over the garden. I can't see much of the room, but its size promises to be intimidating. That might be a nice change from the tiny city flats I used to live in. I'm desperately trying to open one of the windows to let the light in when I'm surprised by a voice coming from the entrance. Miss? An old woman is standing at the threshold. Yes? My husband told me you are coming to the house. Are you planning to stay the night? Much more than a night. I'm moving in. Oh, and call me Daphne, please. I'll get my share of Miss and Madam when I start working at the school. Are you aware of the inheritance? So you're the Madam's granddaughter, then? She used to talk about you a lot, you know. I remember you. Well, I mean, it was a long time ago. You were still a baby when Miss Sophie left. Madam never got over it. Well, I'm sure you have a lot to tell me, but can't you do it while helping me open the shutters? Oh sure, I'm sorry. So, are you moving into the castle? You're going to work at the village's middle school, aren't you? Yes, I'm a math teacher. I'm going to teach there. Well, at least for the next 6 months, as a substitute. So, tell me, how do you want to proceed? I mean, I know you've been working for my grandmother, but I'm not sure I can afford your services, if you see what I mean. The inheritance left me barely enough to cover the costs of the house for a couple years. Oh, don't worry. Gerald and we retired 2 years ago, but Madam didn't forget us in the legacy. She was kind enough to let us live here in the outbuilding for the rest of our days. We'll help as long as we can, my husband and I. We've done this all our life. Work doesn't scare us. Anyway, it would be boring to have nothing to do all day. That's great news. Without some help, I don't know how I would have managed to get everything done in such a big house. And we'll be happy to give a hand. Would you like me to get you some groceries from the market tomorrow? I used to do it for Madam. Since Miss Sophie left, she didn't get out much. No, don't worry, I'll go. It'll give me an opportunity to check the village out. Miss Bourdain helps me make my bed. The windows are wide open. Let the stuffy smells out while ushering in the golden light of the sun, setting on this nice summer evening. Then she leaves me alone for my first night in my new home. I spend it watching the antique television in the kitchen while eating for dinner the leftovers of a sandwich I bought earlier on the highway. I try to get some sleep, far from the reassuring sounds of the cars and lights of the city, with this forced silence only interrupted by some disturbing squeaks of the floorboards and the hooting of a haunting night owl. It's not surprising I got up in quite a bad mood, and if the sight of an empty fridge hadn't pushed me to act, I would certainly have succumbed to the inviting comfort of the sofa and wasted my day napping in the living room. The market, it wasn't exactly what I imagined. We all have this romantic notion of the picturesque little country town market, but this was nothing but purely functional. Nothing romantic in the butcher's stall, nor the fishmonger's radio, tuned in way too loud on a local station that seems to broadcast at this hour of the day a playlist of songs that used to be popular but are utterly old-fashioned nowadays. I'm buying some bread when somebody boldly cuts me in line. Give me 3 baguettes and 2 nut breads, sliced, please. I'm sorry, but I believe it was my turn. It will only take an instant, don't worry. Who do you think you are? You're not from around here, are you? What does it have to do with anything? Listen, miss. Please inform yourself before you start making a scene. It's a little bit embarrassing. See? I'm done already. It didn't take that long, did it? Have a nice day. The man puts some change in the baker's hand before disappearing in the street. Seriously, who's this guy? You're not from around here, are you? It's Multeray's son. His family owns a sawmill that employs half the town. As for the other half, they're all in business with them, one way or another. Does it give them a right to behave like that? You shouldn't cross the Multerays, you know. They've been in town for generations, and people say all sorts of things about them. What kinds of things? Strange accidents, businesses suddenly going bankrupt. People are quite superstitious here. I'm sure you're going to remind me that I'm not from around here, but taking advantage of villagers' prodigality, it's disgusting. Listen, I'm leaving the area soon, so you'll understand I don't want to drag myself into this. The others told me to be careful with this family, and I don't want any trouble. I see. I realize I've already been here a couple of days. I haven't taken the time to visit the house properly. With my tight schedule, I stayed in the main rooms, going from the bedroom to the kitchen, through the living room. It's high time I take advantage of the weekend to give myself the grand tour. Maybe I'll learn a thing or two about my grandmother and this family I know nothing about. We shall see. I could also ask a couple of questions to Miss Borty. Until now, she has remained very evasive. If I go see her outside her work hours, she might be more inclined to answer me. She's a very discreet woman, and somehow always manages not to be in the same room as me. I leave the kitchen for a while to take a shower, for example. When I come back, I always find out that the leftovers of my breakfast have been put away, and the table has been cleaned up, and the dishwasher is gently humming. I've told her several times not to make my bed, that I'm perfectly capable of doing it myself. She seems to acknowledge, but keeps making it the next morning anyway. So I guess she might enjoy a friendly visit. Where should I start? Let's see. Let's check the tower. The tower intrigues me. I don't know about you guys, but having a tower in the middle of this old house is very interesting. Remnants of some castle or something. I didn't find the entrance to the tower. I searched inside and outside the house, but no door seems to lead to it. That's weird. Very weird indeed. After randomly exploring the corridors and the rooms, I had to admit defeat. I'll have to ask Miss Bortine about this mystery. However, while I was searching for the damned entrance, my feet took me to the basement where I discovered a treasure of old wines. The most recent bottles were around 30 years old. I guess my grandmother wasn't much of a drinker, and the wine cellar must have remained untouched since her husband passed away. Did my mother come here during her teen years, defying her parents' rules to steal a bottle to share with her friends from the village? Was I conceived during one of these parties, celebrated by sacrificing these rare vintages on the altar of youth, with my mother Sophie not being sober enough to resist the charms of a young local farmer? When I was old enough to ask, she always answered, with a hand gesture, that my father was from the village and hadn't wanted to recognize this child he didn't ask for. All in all, she said we were better off without him. Maybe I could bring a bottle to Miss Borty. Yeah, sure. I'll take a bottle. As I take a bottle from its shelf to decipher its dusty label, it slips my hands and breaks. Suddenly I am overwhelmed by this feeling, as if I was violating something sacred, trampling the memory of my grandmother, who might have selected this precise vintage to celebrate something special. I begin to question my intentions. Is offering this bottle an honest mark of affection towards a kind old lady, or am I planning to get Miss Bortine drunk in order to extort more information from her? No. Finally, it's not like me to do this, and I'm not sure it would be such a good idea to get drunk in the middle of the day. what should I do next then? Let's go talk to the old lady. Good morning, Miss 14. How are you doing? Oh, hi, Miss Daphne. My joints are aching today. Must be the weather getting colder. Summer always goes so fast. It's almost fall already. Can you believe it? But enough talking about me. I'm sure you haven't come around here to hear the old maid complain about her. I don't know how to pronounce it. Rheumatism, I think. I don't know. How can I help you, miss? Let's see it. Let's ask about the tower first. I couldn't find the entrance of the tower. Do you know how to get inside? Well, I can't say, miss. No, I couldn't tell you how to get in if my life depended on it. Madam, your grandmother used to say it has been walled up, and we'd rather not know what was inside. Do you mean that no one got inside the tower since what? 30 years ago? 40 years ago? Whoa, way more than that. I'm 67, and I've been living here since I was 14, and I always knew the tower was like this. So no one knows what's inside, right? You must have your own idea, don't you? You must have heard something in the village, right? Well, that's just gossip. Nothing to worry. Worth talking about. What are you talking about? Please don't insist, miss. With all due respect, I can't resolve myself to defile your late grandmother's name. Something else? Tell me how it was like in the old days. I mean, before Mom left. When your mother left, we were already at the end of the rope, if you allow me, miss. There were only your grandmother, Madame Adelaide, Adelia, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Miss Sophie living here. Your grandmother died when your mother was still a little girl. An illness that took him without warning. The doctors didn't know what to do for this poor man. But when I had arrived, it was something else. There were lots of people living in the castle. The cousins, the uncles, the aunts, and a swarm of children. What happened? I don't know, really. There were some unexplained deaths, accidents. Some of them left the area, got out of touch. It all started when the Metelleries bought the sawmill. That seems crazy, but there must be a connection, don't you think? Can you really believe it's a coincidence? I can't tell, miss. All I can see is that when the Metelleries flourish, the dealers wither. I met Malteri's son at the bakery. This hooligan? I know it's none of my business, but you should be wary of him. He's a good-for-nothing who spends his time doing who knows what, hanging around his car. I'm sure he's not that bad. With the family he's dealing with, it mustn't be easy. Well, since you're asking about the past, would you like to see the old picture albums? Sure. Tell me where I can find them. I'd love to take a look. Thanks. The cupboard in the living room. There are even some pictures taken by your great-grandfather. You'll see. Something else? No, I'll see you later. Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you. I'll come back later. Okay, what should I do next? Let's see. Let's check the old bedroom. My grandmother used to live here, alone in this big house, so she kept most of the rooms closed to stay in the ground floor and the left side of the building. I have taken over her quarters, and with the nights getting colder, I'm happy I don't have to keep the whole house warm. I checked the other rooms, the parlors on the ground floor, and the multiple bedrooms above. Everything seems frozen in time. The furniture covered with white linen sheets, maybe waiting for better days to return. Like when Adelaide wasn't a widow yet and my mother was still living under her roof. Her old bedroom hasn't changed since her teen years, even if I can tell that someone has hurriedly made a room for me, this baby who is about to be born. There are still some band posters from another age pinned to the walls, and the crib, where I might have spent my first few nights before Mother decided to leave. But there wasn't any white linen sheet to protect the furniture in this room, and it looks like it has been cleaned up very recently. Okay, let's look at the picture albums. I found the pictures where Miss Bertines told me they would be, to discover that my great-grandfather had an early passion for the dark room and that his photographs from the last century had survived. The family was larger then, with a swarm of children in the gardens and large tables at holiday gatherings. If I could read, worry about the adults' faces, if the future ruin and dereliction of the house Dielter could already crack the walls and the yellow wallpapers, it wasn't showing on these old photographs. I'm not saying what that is. Daguerreotypes? I don't know some words, okay? I'm not super English. I found a couple of pictures of my mother, as a child first, then as a young girl. I must admit, I was moved by this discovery, since I had never seen what she used to look like when she was younger. The last picture show her belly getting rounder and rounder. And then, nothing. No more pictures, as if nothing worth documenting had happened during the last 30 years. What should I do next? Okay, well, apparently I have more questions for Miss Boutine. Is there something else? I visited the house, gone into every room, and have noticed all the furniture was covered with white linen sheets. Yes, it's your Madam Grandmother who's asked me to close most of the rooms. She lived alone in the house, and she never had any visitor. It was to prevent the furniture being damaged. Why are you asking? Do you want me to open up the rest of the house? No, that's not why I was asking. One of the rooms. I guess it's my mother's old bedroom. Why wasn't it closed, as you say? Because Madam asked me to keep it freshly cleaned. You know, when Miss Sophie left, it broke her heart. She wasn't the same afterwards. Right until she died, she never gave up hope your mother would come back. She asked me to make her room every day, just in case, she used to say. Well, that's depressing. Talking with Mrs. Bortine aroused my curiosity. The tower, the village, the Maltese, and I thought my relocation would mean living a life of austerity and isolation. What's going on in the village is, I must admit, much more intriguing than I anticipated. Unfortunately, the chores of everyday life catch up with me before I have the leisure to think about it. I have no choice but to dedicate the last days of August to the preparation of my classes at the middle school. I didn't realize how time-consuming it was. So I spent most of my time confined to the house, boning up on the textbooks of each class I'd been given. Okay, I'm gonna stop here, because I don't want these to run too long. So we're gonna go back to the main menu. Alright, so that was the first part of Along the Edge. Let me know what you guys think of this game, if you want to see more of it, if you don't want to see more of it. It's kind of interesting because it's a super narrative-driven game. It's basically like it's a graphic novel, really, is what it is. It's a follow-along, read-along graphic novel that you have the ability to make choices in. And I haven't really played anything like this before, so I find it kind of interesting. Maybe you guys do too, maybe you guys don't, maybe you guys prefer more of the traditional type games. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section down below. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please be sure to give it a like. If you guys didn't enjoy it, give it a dislike. Leave any comments, questions, or concerns down below. If you happen to be new, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And once again, hopefully you guys have enjoyed, and thanks to the developers of this for sending us this game on Keymailer. And as always, this has been Devin with the Gaming in Progress, and I will see you guys in the next video.